exception is don't get rid of this, because we can stick it on the inside too. And when we get Joe to a certain point, he can use it for a step to get out.
Yeah.
And you may end up, like Neil talked about, building a wall. You'll need this for that as well, so keep it close by.
We'll work that down through. It will not cut the patient. It's going to move quite a bit of grain. That gives him a sense of progress is being made. It'll change the whole atmosphere of what's going on for him if you hand him a way to rescue himself. Because once the wall's set, that's all we have to do is get the grain out of it. And I say that like it's no big deal, but it's that's the easiest part of the whole setup, and then getting them out of the bin safely.
Can everybody, all right, I like this one better. So this is about 1,100 bushel plus grain, and it's a track. There you say, why do we use tracks in farming? Because they are less compaction than our standard wheels. The weight of that part, if it's 1,100 bushels, is well over 80,000. You're gonna load, maybe if rain's coming, you're gonna put it all in the truck, but you're not supposed to. We have about a 10% margin, I believe, from the field loading. So if you can see those black little objects up there, those are your cameras and lights, right? So most of us have installed cameras and lights on things so that we can see how full the cart is and if it's emptying correctly and things without getting in. A safety device, almost, but convenience too. Not as much movement and running. There is a screen in the cab that shows us all those things that we work off of. This here, the spout, moves as well. That's hydraulic. But if you guys want to come up here and see, you can see the power takeoff. And you can come up, it's not on. Come on. This one does have a nice little shield. I like that, guys. But this shaft here, this black one, is the PTO. All right? And that's what drives those great big augers as you saw before it was folded out. That's what makes the grain come out of the grain cart, okay? There is also another auger in the bottom that comes up to that spout and then out. So you've got two apparatuses moving off of this PTO shaft, and that's why you have to have this large of a tractor to run it. If someone were now, you can also see if that cover wasn't on and someone was messing with it, trying to hook it up, or it wasn't running right, or something's not flowing, we need to check the hookups. Look at the space between the PTO and the hitch. Not much space. It would kill you instantly, okay? So some different equipment have bigger spaces, but this does not. So this is another reason why.
Like you said, my name is Matt. I'm with Heritage Tractor. We are the local John Deere dealer group to McLean and Woodford County. So Brian Houston asked me to be here today. Happy to be here. Appreciate you guys taking the time to want to learn about this stuff. I know there's a lot of people who probably, we've all seen this stuff before. Everybody sees it going down the road, but it's a good chance to get just kind of up close and see what burns when it burns and what looks like it's easy to get caught in, right? Which is what you guys are here for, and to learn about and keep from happening as best you can. So happy to be here and go over this. And so one joke I like to make about John Deere equipment, I can't speak so much for Case IH equipment or anything like that, but you know, everything burns, everything's easy to get caught in, everything's super dangerous, it's big. I will say that this machine right here is a prime example of about as how big as it gets. Typically they're a lot smaller than this, so this seems pretty intimidating. You know, most machines out there aren't this big in the farming world today. So John Deere does not like the word fire. If you say that in the John Deere corporate world, they look at you like you need to put a quarter in the curse jar. They like to use the term thermal event when things happen. So every time things burn down, we have to turn in a thermal event report and give John Deere a synopsis of what we think happened. And there's a lot of things that can happen. So yeah, with local recent experiences here, especially the El Paso Fire Department.
You didn't have a fire extinguisher in the rack.
Yeah, everybody give Brian a hard time about it, right? And let me tell you, even though there are 2 fire extinguishers on this machine, one
it's a water can.
One's a water can and one's an actual fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher.
As you can tell, they go a long ways to putting a fire out when it happens on one of these machines, right? So it's just about good enough to wet the grass around this side of the combine, and that's all you're going to have. So we'll kind of just do a quick walk around.
Fire extinguisher.
There you go. Most fire extinguishers, no matter what color, one will be accessible from the ground, maybe 2 accessible from the ground, and one will always be on the back of the machine up top, next to the fuel cell on every brand of combine typically. So anybody who can get there and wet down the fuel cell typically will try to do that if they can have the time and the safety to do it. We'll wet down the fuel cell so that, you know, that's a ticking bomb back there, obviously, if you get a fire on that side of the combine. So we'll just kind of walk around this briefly, kind of show some stuff, some typical places. I brought some handouts here if you guys have a chance, you want to grab one. It's a 2-pager that shows you, at least on John Deere combines, typical places where fires can start if a farmer does not keep the machine clean enough in that area. So I would say 90% of fires that start on a combine in the John Deere world are from chaff buildup of some kind. You look at last fall, if everybody remembers, last fall was a prime example how dry it was. So you remember it didn't rain from end of July till the 1st of October. So we had 2 months of super dry weather, and all the burn, you know, notices they're out there for no burning and no do anything like, I mean, it was a prime fall and late summer last year for fires. And when farmers get out there and they run these machines every single day for 12 hours a day, there are corners of this machine that will collect that chaff, and when it gets heat or friction, things will catch fire, can catch fire. It happens every year. From the dealership side, I bet you know, with our 20 stores, I bet we'll have 5 combines that burn down completely top to bottom. We usually tell our farmers from the dealership perspective, if it does catch fire, let it burn. So just know that you're working against that bit of advice from us, because it's pointless to try and put it out. People who do put it out, you know, getting a little further than we need to, it's really hard to put them back together after the fire happens. So we usually tell the customer, and most farmers kind of know this, if it does catch fire, just let it burn. So most of them are going to be under that assumption for their insurance dollars to kick in, take care of it, just let the thing go to the ground, because it's really hard to fix it after a fire starts. So you can imagine as complex as these things are. So yeah, 2 different pieces will separate out: the corn head or the head of any kind. There's a big draper platform that's back here too. The head is more of a safety thing. Head fires are very limited. Combine fires are more prominent, more statistically able to happen. So we'll focus on the combine on the fire side of things, and the heads on the safety side of things. For rarely does it happen, but somebody had, you know, people have gotten stuck in augers of any kind. We know that that's the #1. PTO shafts and augers are the 2 most dangerous things on the farm, and corn heads right here. And what's that?
Belts.
And belts. Belts are another easy thing to get caught on too. Absolutely, there's plenty of belts in these combines we'll take a look at. But a corn head has a lot of moving pieces, including a big auger on it. So there's a lot of things that can happen there. So
Just like the tractor, it's got a PTO shaft.
yep.
So the
PTO shafts will run your heads from the combine, so no matter what the color is, you'll have PTO shafts coming off of the front of the combine. We call this the feeder house, where the crop is fed into, and it will run the head. So you've got that same thin plastic sheath that goes around your machines. Older combines and older farmers and lazier farmers, when those shields are gone, they're expensive to replace, so guess what they do?
They
don't replace them, right? So if you see a bare PTO shaft, it'll look like a star shape, and that is something, if you touch that when it's spinning, you're in trouble, right? So these PTO shafts are very, same thing, there's a shaft that runs all the way through here on any, we call this the back shaft, on any brand of corn head, you're gonna have the shaft on the back side, the big safety piece right there. On every corn head, no matter what color it is, underneath the corn head that runs your rolls, and we'll walk around the front, you can see this, on every one of these rows is what's called a slip clutch. And when farmers get into a bunch of crop bunched up, those slip clutches will stop that roll, and this PTO shaft continues to turn. So what does that do? A slip clutch is turning, but nothing on the front's turning, so you have friction back there. You have a piece of it that's stopped, and you have a piece of it that's still turning, and that can create friction, which creates heat, which creates fire potential underneath there. So every one of these rows, if it's a slip clutch fire, which I would say on a head of any kind, the most common fire is going to be a slip clutch fire, that's going to happen right in the center underneath that head. So keep an eye open for that. If you're approaching a fire, typically it's starting from underneath the center of the head. So hopefully most farmers, if they realize there's a fire, they stop, they're going to back up, they're going to raise that head all the way up, and hopefully we can, if that happens in an ideal situation, have the ability to get under there and spray it down. So if it happens when the head is down, that's a lot trickier. You kind of have to shoot from the back of the head, be able to shoot underneath the head to put a fire out. Does that make sense? I guess we'll kind of walk around the front here. I can kind of show some of the big safety stuff here. I'll stand in the sun so everybody can see in the shade. So every corn head, I about guarantee every farmer has run some sort of species of animal up into their corn head, right? Raccoons, deer, a rock, whatever it is. What they're doing is they're running that crop right through the middle of these dividers into these rolls that are called knife rolls. Sounds pretty intimidating. That are turning very, very fast and sucking that crop down to suck it into the head, okay? So when things get stuck, these chains right here we see on every row, you see these gathering chains are bringing things in, and the rolls are sucking things to the back of the head. So hopefully if something gets stuck, or somebody, Lord forbid, gets stuck, somebody's able to shut that off in the meantime before it gets into the auger. And obviously everybody's seen an auger. You see that long auger right there that brings the crop to the center of the feeder house. Is a big piece right there. While I'm talking about the auger, many heads out there fold like this one does, and many of them are rigid. They don't fold, okay? If you come across a bigger head like this, 8 times out of 10, it will be a folding corn head. And what I want to stress to you guys at that point is if somebody is stuck in an auger, Lord forbid, is stuck in an auger on a bigger folding corn head, I think you guys are taught to cut the auger on both ends and extract everything out at the same time, right? Well, you don't have to cut so much if you can remember that those augers will join in 3 different pieces. So you have 3 different augers you can work with instead of just one big auger. If it's a rigid head that does not fold, that auger's one big long piece, so you have to be more strategic on how you cut it, all right? Any questions there on that? That can be kind of confusing. You see joints, you'll look for these joints right here with big cylinders, and that will tell you it's a folding corn head. And remember, you know, if somebody's stuck here, you only have to work within this section of the head, not the entire auger itself, okay?
If you have someone that is stuck in that, even in the chains or the auger, always remember that they went in with force and they're stored energy. So when you go to cut that auger, it's not just gonna come apart. Now, you can turn the power off, but there is gonna be energy behind someone getting stuck in that. The wedge is the pressure. So you just need to make sure that it doesn't go further. It's kind of like cribbing a tractor, right? Lift an inch, crib an inch. You just need to make sure that all moving parts are not going to then move again. Everything needs to be shut off before you were to cut something. So
same way, it'd be a very smart thing. Obviously, I would hope this would happen, but to make sure power is completely killed at the combine, you can reverse these heads. Farmers have the ability, when they slug them full of a lot of crop, to reverse the heads. We don't want to do that. If somebody's stuck, that'll create a whole nother set of problems, obviously. So make sure nobody touches the combine. If there's a safety battery disconnect, kill it so nothing can start, and then nobody can accidentally reverse the head and go that way. And we try to. Most farmers will know this, but some might not. If they do get something, an animal, they'll back it out typically and they'll let it go. But if it's a personnel, the last thing they want to do is reverse that head. So Yeah, most combines will have a safety switch. As soon as somebody's out of the seat, it will kill all functions of the combine. But yeah, oftentimes older machines might not have that feature or might have it working in the first place too. Yeah, or they jump it. A lot of people will jump it so they can get out of the combine.
Right.
Cheat it, right? So that's the biggest thing on the heads. The biggest thing is auger, obviously, our rolls underneath that suck everything in. Slip clutches are the biggest fire hazard on these heads. There's a lot of friction. These rolls, there's a lot of steel rubbing together, so there's many opportunities for stuff to happen. And those are kind of the big things to look out for here. So,
if you have a farmer that has the great big stack of chaff on the top because it doesn't blow anything off every night, you have to have the same principle thought in your head that he doesn't grease things the same as the chaff. If you have it, we blow our combine off with a leaf blower, and he wears a big mask because of all the dust every single night because we don't want a field fire or a fire. Once you shut it off, it's not just cold. It's going to take hours to cool off. So that's why we blow everything off, and everything gets greased all the time because, like I say, if they don't blow things off, which some don't, they'll be running down the road, and I mean, it'll be up to the cab for the extra corn stalks. That's what we mean by chaff, is the residue from going through the field. That's like a fire nightmare.
oh yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. Any other questions on the head? Pretty simple. These are pretty simple things. Just looking for augers, and rarely do heads burn. Combines usually start the fire. Sometimes the heads burn, sometimes they don't. A farmer, if he knows he's got a combine fire, instinctively will try to disconnect his head pretty quickly and get away from it so that the head stays and the combine burns by itself. But sometimes you can't prevent that from happening, right? Beggars aren't choosers in a fire situation. Yes.
Applicator, there's all kinds of names for them. What happens is you can see the spikes. You see the disc part, but then you see the curved spikes. That is where the anhydrous comes out at, is at the end of the spike. So that buries it underneath the ground. It needs to be 50 degrees or colder when we do strip tilling or application in the fall, and it will stay in the ground until spring. And then when the planter comes along, it plants in the same track, and as the roots grow, when it gets to the nitrogen, which is what anhydrous is, it will then boom. That's when you see all the corn that looks a little yellowish and it's little, and then all of a sudden you go by it the next day and you're like, that is so green. It hit the nitrogen, okay? And that helps with the color, it helps with the growth of the plant, it helps with a lot of things. It is not safe to put on top of the ground, and anhydrous is not, and that's why they use the knife to put it underneath the ground. The actual inches I don't have, sorry, but you get the concept of where we put it, okay? This anhydrous bar is, I believe, the largest that they build.
Well, now they're making them bigger.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
so this is a
just when you thought it couldn't get bigger.
So this is 24, now they go to 26 row.
26 row, okay. So everything is done when you plant or side dress or applicate nitrogen, it's always done by the row, right? We have a 16 row planter, we have an 8 row combine because it works well together. We have a 16 row anhydrous knife, that is again because of the 16 row planter. So a lot of people have a company like Sun Ag or others, FS, I mean, you name them, they're all companies that sell chemicals like nitrogen. Obviously, you can put it in dry, you can put it on like this, and then also like Roundup, 2,4-D, there's all kinds of chemical names. You just want to be very careful with any chemical that you ever deal with. The concentrations that we use to to make our production of ag what it should be to feed the rest of the world needs to be higher than what we would ever have in our households, okay? So if you go to a farm accident and there is an anhydrous tank, or you have a planter and it has big old hoppers on top, that may be full of fertilizer. Fertilizer, remember, organophosphates, poisoning, you need atropine. So you do not want to mess with the scene until you have the right protective gear. I don't want you, well, the guy's screaming and his arm's half off, but it's stuck. Don't go near it, because I don't want it to be a hazmat situation. And trust me, if they think they need to, they will strip you down in the parking lot too and decon you. I don't know if anyone watched the show ER, that shows my age. There was a resident that just couldn't keep his hands out of things. Well, he got deconned in front of the entire ER because he was then contaminated. So always think in the back of your head, how do I stay safe at a farm incident that involves something like this? Nitrogen, if you have never smelled anhydrous, it is a very distinct smell. It will immediately take away your breath because that's what it does. It expands 800 times when it comes out of the tank, okay? So just even a little puff of it, I have slides that'll show you the white cloud that you may see. You don't have to have a white cloud for there to be a leak that you can smell that could be detrimental to you. If you smell something you're like, it'll be very obnoxious. Open a bottle of ammonia cleaner at home and then amplify that by about 100. And that's what that smells like. And you'll be like, whoa, what is that? Walk the other way. Truly, there is a video of a state trooper, I believe it is Illinois state trooper, I think. Not 100% positive that. You Google anhydrous accident, state trooper goes down. You will find that he walked up to an anhydrous tank that was hooked to a bar, and somebody blew a T intersection, hitting him. And it put the tank and the tractor out in the field. The tank was ruptured, you just couldn't see any white smoke. It was slowly leaking, but it was leaking. He then walks towards the accident, and it is very overwhelming. He became overwhelmed by it, and then collapsed to the ground. The only thing you hear then from his car camera is every time he would try and take a breath, he would cue his lungs. He is alive, he survived, but it is a wonder how he did. Okay. Because it attacks every ounce of moisture on your body. It will go after you, blind you. It will hurt and damage your lungs because they are very moist. All of you will have burns. If you were to get any on you, that can cause second and third degree burns. Remember, chemicals burn worse than any kind of flame you could ever create, because it does need a million. You can fill both tankers, and I don't know if I'd have enough water to decontaminate a bunch of people, is what I'm trying to get to you. Is the amount they have 250 or 500 gallon tanks next to the large tank at a FS or SunAg, and you are to submerge yourself if there's a leak to get it off of you. That's how potent it is. And I have burn pictures to show you on the slides. I can remember out in Iowa where I started nursing at the trauma center. I can still remember an old farmer who was hooking up the tank, and it's a nice big hose that goes from the applicator to the tank, which you need, and it came unconnected, so it blew all over his legs. I can still see him standing on a chair with his leg in the decon sink, and he's like, can we be done with this? And I said, nope, not yet. And we had him stand there for over an hour because I wanted to make sure that it didn't keep burning him. So that's the kind of volume we're talking about for decon. It's huge. So don't think, oh, bottle of water, no. So always look for the big white puff. I have some pictures of an aerial leak, and you can see it for miles. And we would send the fire guys out with their truck, and we would start determining where we needed to evacuate, because it would be a hazmat situation. If we had one at SunAg, just using this as an example, it has never happened. If one of their large tanks ruptured and we had a strong south wind, we would have to evacuate the entire town of El Paso, okay? So just know that what can happen. Just know what you're dealing with and the dangers that come with it. If someone says there's an anhydrous leak When you do evacuate, that is not pack your pictures, grab your purse, and get the heck out, okay? There's no time to pack anything. It will be fine. You'll come back later, the gas will have dissipated enough that it's safe for you to return, okay? So just know, if someone comes to your house and says you need to leave right now, they're not kidding, okay?